I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up today on Undivided, a newly appointed city council member turned out to be a trans OnlyFans model with some pretty strange fetishes. What it says about the broader problem of identity politics. Plus, it's decision day for some of the most controversial bills being considered in Olympia. And I am going to say something nice about Bob Ferguson with no caveats whatsoever. That and more coming up today on Undivided. Remember, you can support our show for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com. Why? Why me? Why me? I asked Nicole to switch jobs with me today so she could go through this top story with you, and she declined. So I guess it's up to me. Why me? Why me? Look, this is a very salacious story. I get it. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got the transgender person. It's got OnlyFans. It's got semi-nude pictures. It's got fetishes about cannibalism and impregnation, implantation. It really does have everything. But I do want to have a more serious conversation about it. And the reason I'm leading the show with it, yeah, it is a little bit the salacious nature of it, but it's also that this is exhibit A of what happens when you have an obsession with identity politics. What happens when the only things that matter to you, when the only thing that matters to you is identitarianism. And that could go for radical gender ideology, like do they check a box? Are they gay? Are they a lesbian? Are they transgender? Or do they check a certain box when it comes to skin pigmentation? Is their skin dark enough? And the left has had this true obsession with identity politics for a long time. And I would say it used to be sort of tame, right? Like, hey, we need more Black representation in spaces. I agree. You know, we need more women in space. I agree. And then it became this absolute obsession where your perceived qualification to do something was not gauged based off of your actual qualifications, but how many boxes you could check. And this story, as salacious as it is a prime example of how that continues in earnest in Washington state. Now, before I get to it, forgive me for the words that I'm going to have to read, and for the pictures that I'm going to have to show you. And YouTube, please be kind. I'm not worried about the other platforms anymore. YouTube, please be kind, because we are, after all, simply trying to hold a public official accountable. So I want to introduce you to Jessica Roberts. So if you just read this story in Lynnwood today, you'd think, well, that is just nice. Good for her. Good for her. It's just a smiling person there. Jessica Roberts selected to fill Lynnwood council vacancy. Well, that seems like a pretty mundane story. Remember, they had tried to already fill a vacancy, but then the person they chose to fill it quickly resigned, so it's their second attempt. So that's the headline. Second time's a charm. Jessica Roberts selected to fill Lynnwood council vacancy. And if you read the whole thing, you would just think, well, there's a nice lady named Jessica, and she is filling the vacancy on the Lynnwood City Council, not a big city, so just kind of a small story. Well, good thing that there's another news outlet in Lynnwood who actually cares about doing just a tiny bit, or even a Google search, really, about the individuals who are selected to fill positions of power in their city. So rather than Lynnwood Today, let's read coverage from the Lynnwood Times, shall we? New Lynnwood City Council member is an OnlyFans model and has alleged explicit Reddit posts about women. So let's get into who Jessica Roberts really is. Well, Jessica Roberts is transgender. So Jessica is a man who identifies as a woman, which again, I don't care. This is an adult. This is Washington state. I do not care if you are an adult and you want to dress and try to look like a woman. We wouldn't be doing a story on Jessica Roberts if the only kind of interesting, different thing about Jessica was transgender. But of course, there's much more than that. So the Lynnwood Times keeps digging. And again, this isn't like this is hidden stuff. They just did the very, very bottom level research that, rabbit hole opened up from there. But let's look into this Jessica Roberts person. So they find out Jessica has a very public, easily accessible OnlyFans account, and in fact uses the name Jessica and a picture of his face. It's very clearly the same person, right? Well, on this OnlyFans account and elsewhere on the internet, Jessica Roberts likes to post pictures of his itty-bitty titties, as he calls them. And look, I have... Stop it, Nicole. I have blacked these out, but I don't need to, because those are pecs. I don't need to black it out, but just because I don't want the AI algorithm to see it, but I blacked it out anyway. So on OnlyFans, Jessica describes themselves as a bisexual trans woman with itty-bitty titties and a big girl C word. It says, come have a fun time. C-U-M, okay? You get it. So it's a lot of like lifting up the shirt and sort of like bulge pictures. And again, lifting up the shirt is sort of irrelevant because this is a biological man. So there's the kind of run-of-the-mill OnlyFans stuff. And then you get to the Reddit posts. These, according to the Lynnwood Times, and again, forgive me, I don't even know what I can fully read. Some of it I don't even really understand. It sounds like a cannibalism fetish. And I tried to have Nicole Google some things on Urban Dictionary, but I don't think Nicole wants that stuff on her computer, frankly.
I do not.
So forgive me again. So a couple posts here. The discussion is sex with pred before... I can't read that. I can't read that. I mean, how am I supposed to read that? So it's about, you know, performing acts on one another, right? I don't know what a pred is. I'm not gonna look that up. Talking about all the different types of sex that they like, right? But this one really got me. Always love digesting girl meat for lunch. That's the thing that people are calling cannibalistic. Always love digesting girl meat for lunch. And we looked into what the phrase girl meat means, and it's very graphic, but I think it's essentially like the reconstruction of a part for transgender individuals, right? Something like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. This one is crazy. My baby fever is so severe right now. This is the, how do you refer to it in Reddit? It's like the
post, or
it's like the topic that people are commenting under, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So some of these are just insane. I love the idea of grabbing a pretty girl and using her as a breeding pet. And once I've gotten her pregnant, sharing her with my fellow trans femmes. I am a 31-year-old trans woman looking to get another woman pregnant. And of course, you can only do that because biological man. So, I mean, all sorts of disgusting stuff. I cannot even begin to read to you everything that was uncovered by the saints over at the Lynnwood Times, who truly had to dig deep into the bowels of the internet to find some of this stuff. But again, at the very base level, Jessica's OnlyFans account is public, and it has Jessica's picture. It's clearly Jessica Roberts, who's just been selected to fill this vacancy on the Lynnwood City Council. Pictures and all, right? So the Lynnwood City Council is now calling an emergency meeting where they're going to reconsider this appointment, which I think at this point you kind of have to. So even the very, very woke Lynnwood City Council's like, some new things have come to light. This is maybe not the person that we should select to fill this vacancy. So again, salacious, crazy. Obviously, this is not someone who's fit for public office. But it is what happens when identity is the only thing that matters in a state like Washington. We already have on this, it's a relatively small city, right? It's already gotten so much of attention because of another council member, Josh Binda. Josh Binda has gotten away with countless things because of his identity, because he's a young black man who I guess first got active in politics through the BLM movement. And I mean, Josh Binda has done, posting shirtless, suggestive photos on social media when he's talking about speeches he gives to children, misuse of campaign funds, not even living in the city of Lynnwood, registering and voting at a place he doesn't live anymore, which is a crime, and he still hasn't resigned for it. But one of the things we kept saying about Josh Binda is a white straight dude never would have gotten away with the things that Josh Binda has gotten away with. And frankly, Josh Binda wouldn't have been elected if it wasn't this BLM color of his skin background. So not only does he get elected for that because he had no qualifications whatsoever to do the job, and many of the qualifications he put on his resume, it turns out, weren't even true. But then he gets away with all these things that would tank anyone else's career in an environment where identity politics doesn't rule the day. And so now you have, oh, let's fill this vacancy. Who can we find? Trans person. You know that Jessica Roberts was only selected so they could be like, oh, we have a trans person on the council. So let's not do any due diligence. Let's not, that would be hateful, right? Bigoted, maybe even transphobic. To look into the background of this trans person, let's just give him a job on the council. And then we're checking all the boxes. Oh, we got all the necessary groups to fulfill our identity obsession. And this is what happens when identity politics is the only thing that matters to you. And then again, I mean, with Josh Binda, it doesn't matter at that point what comes out. I mean, thankfully, this came out early enough where they can now walk back from it, and it's grotesque enough where I think that it gives them a little bit of cover. But you don't think that there's going to be activists who are like, this is incredibly transphobic, and who are going to call me transphobic online because we're criticizing it and sharing all these posts? Again, if the only thing is Jessica Roberts was a transgender person, it would be just another day in Washington state. But when you're a transgender person and you choose, or a non-transgender person, just a person, and you choose to run an OnlyFans account where you're posting sexually explicit content, and when you're on Reddit talking about really bizarre, grotesque fetishes and a desire to impregnate other people, women, and then pass them off to your other trans femmes, like that clearly crosses a line, right? But none of this would be a problem if we actually did due diligence into people we elected into office, even if they're under one of those protected classes and you're very concerned about looking into them because you could be dubbed racist or you could be dubbed a transphobe. I mean, remember, Josh Binda had the NAACP hold a press conference on his behalf saying that the criticism of him was racist. Wasn't about what he actually did and taking responsibility for what he actually did. The literal NAACP had a press conference calling all of us racist for calling Josh Binda out for clearly poor, unacceptable behavior of an elected official. So if you want identity politics to rule the day, this is what you're going to end up with. You're going to end up with a city council member who posts on OnlyFans and has a cannibalism fetish. Okay, that's what you get. Can we take a commercial break before I get into non-grotesque things? Because I would feel better if I could have a little quick palate cleanser before I get down to what's happening in the legislative session today, which is the real news, and we have some important stuff to talk about. So let's, I have lost 40 pounds on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program. Not via cannibalism. That wasn't part of the program for sure. Eastside Weight Loss Clinic worked for me. I've done a ton of different crash diets throughout my life, and the fad diet of the day, whatever it is, none of it ever works. But Eastside Weight Loss Clinic isn't really a diet. It's sort of it's a lifestyle change. I mean, they teach you what to eat in the right portions. You get to eat just regular, real food. And I lost 40 pounds, 30 of those pounds in the first 2 months of the program. So you get those quick results that I think everyone who's trying to lose weight wants. And that's one of the things that motivates you to keep going. So I hear from undivided viewers and listeners all the time who have had great success on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program. I chatted with a woman the other day who's down 65 pounds. And so that's just awesome. And look, I've talked to people who the program didn't work for them. And that is because not every weight loss program is right for every person. The key to this is if you can follow the plan, you'll absolutely lose weight. But you need to talk to Dr. Ryan Coogan and his team at Eastside Weight Loss Clinic, do a free 15-minute consultation, and find out if the program is something that you can stick to before you invest in it. So Eastside Weight Loss Clinic, eastsideweightlossclinic.com, eastsideweightlossclinic.com. And that consultation is totally free. So check it out. All right, I feel better now. Moving on. If YouTube hasn't taken us down already. Moving on. So today is a critical cutoff in Olympia. It is the House of Origin cutoff. So by 5 p.m., if a bill hasn't been brought to the floor in its House of Origin, so if it's a House bill in the House, if it's a Senate bill in the Senate, then, and by 5 p.m. it has to actually be brought to a vote. And if it doesn't pass by the end of the day after that point, then it's presumably dead for the session. I mean, they always find interesting ways to resurrect things, but if it has no major budgetary component, it's probably dead if they didn't vote on it by the end of the day today. So that leaves a lot of things up in the air today. So we've been talking, of course, about a number of bad bills that they are debating in Olympia. And so many of the ones that we've discussed on this show, it's do or die for them today. Either they hit the floor, and these are all on the floor calendar. So presumably every single one of these could go for a vote at any point today. So let's go through some of the horrible bills that we are just hoping and praying don't make the cutoff today. Two of them that we've discussed at length, House Bill 1125 and House Bill 1178. These are pro-crime, pro-criminal bills. As you know, House Bill 1125 gives judges ultimate discretion. They can decide, oh, that guy who got sent to prison for 60 years, I'm going to let him out today. That's what I'm going to do. So it gives judges the discretion to end prison sentences early in the interest of justice, as if we need that with all these activist judges out there who don't care about holding criminals accountable. It also gives no finality of victims. It would be a huge slap in the face. And then 1178 is the sentencing enhancements bill, so it gets rid of some key sentencing enhancements. For instance, it lowers enhancements for people who use guns to commit crimes. So at a time when we're making life difficult for law-abiding gun owners, we're going to make it easier for actual criminals who use guns to hurt people. It would also do away with sentencing enhancements for gang members who recruit juvenile gang members to commit crimes on their behalf when we're in the middle of a juvenile gang crime crisis. That seems stupid. It also, I think, completely eliminates the enhancement for adults who cook meth around kids. Wow, really important stuff. Democrats are focused on Olympia. So those two are on the floor, ready to go if they're going to take a vote on it today. Also, a bill we first talked about last week over on the Senate side needs to come out of the Senate today or it's dead. Senate Bill 5266. Now, there is a slight fiscal component to this bill, which might help it live longer, but I think if they don't vote on it today, it's probably dead. This is the one that says any person convicted of one or more crimes committed prior to the person's 18th birthday may petition for early release if they reach the age of 24 or older, unless they've been convicted of 3 or more murder offenses, in which case the person may petition after serving no less than 20 years. So this is the bill that says, hey, if you're a juvenile offender, you can petition for early release at the age of 24 before we send you to big boy prison, even if you've killed 2 people. 3 people? Nah, it's too much. But if you've killed 2 people, we'll let you out of prison at the age of 24. And again, 24 is very strategic, because they don't want these juveniles, even though 24 isn't a juvenile, to go into the adult system, which they do at the age of 25. So they want to let murderers out before sending them to the adult prison, even somebody who killed 2 people. And then, remember the other wrinkle to this, Senate Bill 5266? If they do grant them early release, remember who has to foot the bill for their rent? To help them ease back into society. You and I. So you can kill 2 people, serve, 5-6 years, Get these activists to let you out early, and then the rest of us hardworking people who aren't committing any crimes have to pay your rent. That's how nutso. I mean, it's fascinating to watch the far left, socialist, Marxist wing of the Democratic Party in Olympia completely run the place. That's the only way bills like these even get considered. So that, if it doesn't pass out of the Senate today, I think it's probably dead for the session. Here's one we haven't talked about for a while. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the session, but it's worth putting our attention on today because it also has been put on the floor calendar and it would need a vote by the end of the day. It is House Bill 1399. This is one that you've probably seen if you follow any sheriffs, local sheriffs on social media. You've probably seen them raising holy hell about it, including our friend Sheriff Derek Sanders down in Thurston County. So this bill, as many words that are in this bill to try to make it seem like, oh, this is totally no big deal. House Bill 1399 is basically the effort from Democrats to move every county in this state toward having an appointed sheriff as opposed to an elected sheriff. They want to dictate who the people of your county can elect to be sheriff, who's qualified to be sheriff, making it easier to get them out of office. I mean, they want every county to follow the lead of King County, where voters have decided that they want to let a politician appoint their sheriff instead of electing their sheriff every 4 years. Well, there's a lot of counties in our state who don't want to do this, but that's what Democrats want. They want politicians to be in control of law enforcement leaders, sheriffs, police chiefs, even the ones who have been duly elected. This is incredibly dangerous stuff. The last thing I want are the same people who are pushing those other 3 bills I just talked about, who want to let juvenile killers out early, who want to reduce sentences for gun crimes and gang crimes, who want to give judges discretion to end prison sentences. Those are the people we want in charge of our sheriffs in our counties? I don't think so. So what I was told, and actually I just got to check quick because I asked, do I have permission to share this? And I want to see what the response was really quick. Yes. So I know that the vote on this is going to be really close if it hits the floor today. There are around a dozen Democrats on the House side who are going to vote no. The issue is, I've been told there are a lot of anti-police groups who, since yesterday, have been lobbying aggressively, threatening even, I would say, Democrats who plan to vote no on this. You know, we're going to help get you out of office and all this stuff if you don't fall in line. So unfortunately, there have been some Democrats who have succumbed to that pressure. And really, I mean, the sane side of this can't afford to lose another Democratic vote. So that one, I could not make a prediction for what would happen if that went to a vote on the floor right now. But the consequences of this would be dramatic. And then the big one that'll probably hit the floor last because the debate on it is going to be very long. I hope it doesn't hit the floor at all, but you guys know I talked about it yesterday. I sent out an action alert, HB 1296. This is the House version of the bill that would upend the Parental Bill of Rights that was passed via voter initiative last year. If you haven't taken time to reach out to your elected leaders before this very likely hits the floor this evening, please do. I sent out links to that on every platform that we have, Patreon, Locals, X, Facebook. So just click on the link. It literally takes 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds to say that you're opposed to it and to tell them why. Now, again, if they want to push this through and say, hey, we don't give a damn about parents, we're going to do our thing and we can parent your kids better than you can, and we're going to upend this voter initiative that 500,000 people signed. We know that Let's Go Washington has an initiative ready to go to repeal it. So what I would say to Democrats is your friends who fund your campaigns are going to have to come out of pocket millions of dollars to try to defend the eventual initiative on this. Do you want to make them do that? They already had to spend tens of millions of dollars on the other initiatives just back in November. So you really want to make them come out of pocket millions and millions of dollars to defend this one? Or can you leave well enough alone, stop upending parental rights, and start listening to the people that you serve? So House Bill 1296, I'm told that they'll probably call that to the floor right before 5 p.m. because then it meets that kind of cutoff. And then they'll probably take a break and then they'll come back on the floor around 7. This is the estimate I'm being given right now. And there'll be a lot of amendments and a lot of debate. But one thing I will say for any of those bills, if you see them being debated on the floor, if they actually come to the floor and they open up debate, they're probably going to pass because, and Democrats haven't always been good at this, House Speaker Lori Jenkins has had a few failures in this regard, but you count the votes before you go to the floor. You count the votes before you go to the floor. So it's a dumb thing for the Speaker of the House and the Democratic caucus, same in Congress, to pull a bill to the floor that you don't have the votes to pass. So I would say if it makes it to the floor for debate, Democrats know they have the votes to pass them. So critical cutoff today. Those are the bills that we're going to be watching. And then, of course, we will have updates for you on the show tomorrow about which ones made it through and which ones did not. Hopefully we have a lot to celebrate tomorrow. Amen. See that, Nicole? Basically religious over here. Holy smokes. All right, Zach Abraham, we put out a new episode of Doge Watch this morning if you haven't caught it already. So check that out across all of our platforms. Zach Abraham and I do that every week, and we have a ton of fun doing it if you haven't watched it already. One of the things that we talked about this week on Doge Watch at the end is what the heck is going on with the stock market. I mean, you've seen it everywhere, and the reality is it's been kind of a rough couple days on the stock market. And I think that's to be expected. A little bit of growing pains. Trump stocks did great in his first term. I have no reason to believe he won't get us to that point in his second term, but Zach's the expert on it. So we talked a little bit about that on Doge Watch. He's also talking about it in his first 100 days live webinar coming up on March 20th at 3:30 p.m. Totally free to sign up. So he's going to be, in case you're concerned and you're curious, maybe close to retirement, like, should I be worried about all of this? He can answer those questions for you and sort of walk you through things. So first 100 days live webinar, you can sign up, knowyourriskradio.com, totally free. During it, he'll also do a full reveal of how Bulwark is always looking for opportunities to lower risk, lower cost, and give your hard-earned retirement as much upside as possible. So it's like running your portfolio through a Department of Retirement Efficiency with Zach. Sign up for his free live webinar Thursday, March 20th, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. Register now. knowyourriskradio.com. What, Nicole?
And we just got asked if by Weisscastle if Doge Report is a subscriber-only post. No, it is not.
No, anybody can watch it.
Yeah.
Anybody can watch it.
And recommend they do.
Did I accidentally make it a subscriber-only post today?
I don't think so.
Okay. Sometimes I accidentally do that.
I'll check for you.
That's all right. No big deal. No, anybody can watch it. Okay. Buckle up, buttercups. Buckle up. I'm going to say something nice about Governor Bob Ferguson with absolutely no caveats. First time, maybe the last time. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. All right, so during the pandemic, and particularly the later years of the pandemic, one of the things that I was really forceful about is the need for emergency power reform. We had a governor, a dictator, who had us in a state of emergency for 975 days, and it gave him quite a bit of latitude to deal with the pandemic in the way that he saw fit and put down mandate after mandate with absolutely no check on his power, and that's just not right. I wouldn't want it if there was a governor in power who I agreed with on most things, and I certainly don't want it when there's a governor in power who I disagree with on most things. And that just didn't gain traction, despite some moderate Democrats trying to do it. Overall, Democrats just wouldn't let it happen. And I guess why would they, right? They know that they're going to have a Democrat in the governor's office probably for as long as they want to. So they're like, why would we rein in someone of our own political party? Well, enter Bob Ferguson. So you'll recall during his inaugural address, he was talking about ways he would be willing to work with Republicans. And one of the things he said is he wanted to work with Republicans on reasonable emergency power reform.
Senator Braun, where are you, Senator Braun? There's so many faces in front of me. Senator Braun, I hope to work with you to adopt reasonable limits on the governor's emergency powers. We can do that together.
Love that. Love that. So there was a bill put forth. It was bipartisan in nature. It had support of Governor Bob Ferguson, and it does not appear that bill is going to go anywhere. Bob Ferguson took to Twitter, and he said this. I'm going to read the full thing. Despite lawmakers on both sides of the aisle engaging in good faith negotiation, it's clear that the legislature will not adopt bipartisan legislation to place reasonable limits on the governor's emergency powers. Reform is necessary to protect Washingtonians in times of emergency while ensuring an appropriate balance between the branches of government. Consequently, I commit to the people of Washington and the legislature that I will take the following actions in the event of an emergency when the continuity of government has not been disrupted. If I declare a state of emergency that lasts longer than 60 days while the legislature is not in session, I will terminate that emergency or any order arising from it if 3 leaders of the 4 legislative caucuses write to me requesting that action. Moreover, if a state of emergency has been in place longer than 120 days while the legislature is not in session, I will call a special session to give the legislature the opportunity to terminate an emergency order or declaration. He says this policy will remain in effect as long as I am governor unless the legislature adopts bipartisan legislation amending those emergency powers. I give him a lot of credit for that. He didn't have to do it. He had enough cover to be able to say, well, they didn't send a bill to my desk to sign, so I guess no emergency powers this year. Skeptical Brandi could come up with all sorts of ways and reasons why I think this is strategic on his part, but I'm not doing it today. I think this is a very good thing. I am glad that Governor Bob Ferguson is doing it, and I applaud him for caring about it. That's it. That's all I have to say, Nicole.
Well done.
You see the need to add something? No, I shall not. All right, let's do a double dose of Unbelievable today. In case you're wondering why we're in such a budget crisis, Seattle offers us Exhibit A. All right, Seattle. So everybody's in a budget crisis because the progressives can't budget. The Democrats can't budget. There is nothing out there that they've come up with that they don't want to spend your money on. They'll find a lot. I mean, look at like Dow Constantine. Now they're cutting money from the sheriff's office and public safety. And remember when he was pushing for a new tax to fight climate change? It's like they have no sense of priorities, no sense of what's important and what's not, especially in times when you're trying to pinch your pennies. Pinch your pennies?
Yeah.
Thanks. No semblance of it.
Normally people say penny pincher. But
penny pincher.
That works too.
Pinch your pennies, thank you. I'm not good at metaphors. I don't know why I try to use them so often. It's because they have the priority is all over the place. I mean, look at down in Olympia. They're trying to pass a bill that will just give gifts of $120,000 plus to first-time homebuyers to cover the cost of their down payment because they're black. And we're in a $14 billion budget deficit. They want you to pay the rent of double murderers who they release from juvenile detention early. and we're in a $14 billion budget deficit. Like, no priorities here. So the same in Seattle. Mayor Harrell proposes renewal of Seattle's first-in-nation democracy voucher program. For the love of God. So right now this is paid for with tax funds. And if you're not familiar with the democracy vouchers, it basically gives citizens taxpayer money to contribute to political campaigns. And look, the idea being that, if regular everyday people who might not have the funds to donate to a political campaign have these vouchers in the funds, then the system will be more fair and, we can, even out and everybody can donate and participate in democracy. Yeah, with other people's money. It was a nuts program when it passed. It's a nuts program now. So Mayor Harrell saying that the democracy voucher program is working and he just wants a nominal tax to cover the cost of continuing it.
Democracy vouchers as a tool have allowed more people to participate in campaign financing in our city, making the political process more accessible and inclusive. And indeed, that is its intent, and that is how it has worked out in the last 10 years. Again, if you want to see what democracy and diversity and inclusion and equity look like, just look who's all around me. At $12 a year for a homeowner, we think that, again, when it goes on the ballot, that they'll be in a position to approve it. The cost of $12 to get the kind of democracy values implemented on our ballot, we think is a nominal cost.
It's nominal. Of course, on top of all the other nominal taxes that they've asked Seattle homeowners and King County homeowners to approve, and Seattle just screws over the rest of King County because they'll say yes to anything. New tax to pay for trans surgeries for 11-year-olds? Sure thing. That's just nominal. That's real. So they'll pass all these nominal. It's just nominal. It's just nominal. And then it adds up and adds up and adds up. And at the time when they complain about the cost of home ownership. So it's a nominal cost of $12 per year per homeowner to give other people money to donate to political campaigns. It just seems stupid to me. Let's see. So Cascade PBS reported on the numbers and how many people have used it. They said more than 106,000 residents have used democracy vouchers to contribute more than $10 million to local candidates since the program started. However, many vouchers go unused. A study from Stony Brook and Georgetown University found that participation declined from 7.59% in the 2021 election to 4.72% in 2023. So people get these vouchers, they don't even use them. They don't even use them. And that's the other thing I'm not quite clear on. So if they fund this program, right, and it's the tax and they're collecting the tax revenue, what happens to the money if it's unused?
I mean, I'm not sure, but they talked about educating people on how to use them.
Oh, yes.
So I'm assuming that it's going towards education.
I got them when I lived in Seattle, and I didn't use them because it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because I don't support it.
But that's what he calls a success, 4%.
Yeah, 4% of people. It's just insane. That's why we're in this budget crisis, because we don't pick and choose anything. We're going to fund it all, and they'll find a way to fund it all. And then if you, God forbid, live near some progressive area, well, you're going to end up funding it all too, even if you don't want to. It's just stupid.
He also mentions it worked for candidates. So it doesn't necessarily work for, the voters, the people that are, really want to contribute but can't. It's working for the candidates. So people like, this isn't a council member, but Sean Scott, like people that normally couldn't get the campaign donations because they probably shouldn't be in.
Yeah, because you have to meet certain thresholds, and so then you get the thresholds for democracy
but
vouchers.
Anybody can run, and you can just have you can just recruit all of your friends to turn in their democracy vouchers, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty ridiculous. It's not working for voters. It's working for candidates that probably shouldn't have.
It's just money laundering. It's crazy. Bob says Brandi saying nominal would make for a good short. Do I say it wrong? Nominal.
Am
I saying that right?
I don't know what he's talking about there.
Okay. All right. I don't know.
Nominal.
I don't know. I can't talk good. It's a good thing I don't have a job where I have to speak for a living. All right. We'll get to national news, including big cuts to the U.S. Department of Education. Not doing away with it yet, but major cuts to the U.S. Department of Education. Kind of anticipated, but we'll discuss it a little bit more. If you're thinking about selling your home, maybe in Seattle, because you don't want to pay for stupid democracy vouchers. At some point this year, reach out to our friend Wes Jones at sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com. So the real estate market right now, it's a absolutely a seller's market. So buyer demand is high and inventory is still pretty low. So if you list your home, it's priced right, it's ready for sale, it's got good marketing behind it, you are going to have people banging down your door to buy it, especially if you're working with someone like Wes Jones. He knows the market well. He's going to start by giving you a free market analysis to help you understand what's going on in your neighborhood, what you can expect to get for your home. He has the cool Listing Boost concierge service where he can come in, take all the stress away, manage the projects for any sort of cosmetic upgrades that you might need. You can even just pay for those at closing. So he makes it super easy, chill, relaxed. His communication is great. That's what we hear from a lot of folks who have used Wes, fans of the show, is that his communication is just always there and he never leaves you hanging and he helps you understand everything he's doing. So he also said, by the way, the rest of this month and May are top months of the year to list a home. So something to consider there in terms of the timing. So sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com, a better way to sell your home. I'm a jingle writer. What can I say? All right, getting to some national news. The U.S. Department of Education has fired 1,300 workers, which is about half, according to the New York Times. The layoffs mean that the department will now have a workforce that is about half the size as it was when Donald Trump took office. Not a particular surprise, considering Donald Trump is very seriously considering eliminating the Department of Education. The Times says the department started the year with 4,133 employees. It will now have a workforce about half that size, less than 2 months after Trump took office. In addition to the 1,315 workers who were fired on Tuesday, 572 employees accepted separation packages offered in recent weeks, and 63 probationary workers were terminated last month. So yeah, I mean, amid cost cutting, if this is literally a department they don't want to exist, it's not a surprise that they're going to go in there and gut it. I want a little more detail, and I don't think it's been released on exactly how they selected which people were going to be released besides the people who obviously accepted separation packages, so they fired themselves, and then the 63 probationary workers. So if you're a probationary worker, you're going to be the first one to go anyway. If you haven't watched it already, we had an excellent interview on Sundays with subscribers with Vicki Murray, who's with Washington Policy Center, but she's also literally written the book on our failed education system and is a big proponent of cutting the U.S. Department of Education. And she explains in very simple terms why and how it would actually help states and improve education. So if you're kind of wondering and you're on the fence as to whether this is a good idea, definitely watch Sundays with Subscribers with Vicki Murray that aired a couple days ago. All right, I've talked on the show about my fear is Trump taking things too far. My fear is Republicans like just enjoying all these wins, but taking things too far where they're going to scare off independents. This is what I mean by that. So there's this Texas bill. It says it's an act relating to creating the criminal offense of gender identity fraud. So not identity fraud, gender identity fraud. It says a person commits an offense if the person knowingly makes a false or misleading verbal or written statement to a government entity or the person's employer by identifying the person's biological sex as the opposite of the biological sex assigned to the person at birth. And this is a felony crime, by the way. Come on, guys. This is what I mean by too far. It's just ridiculous. You do not have to charge someone with a freaking felony if they say they're a boy and they're a girl. And I get it. You're looking at things with like, I'm not saying maybe it shouldn't be. First of all, you have to, if you don't want them to be able to do that, there has to be a way where if you can't change your birth certificate and you have to present it to get a document, then they certainly can't lie. But in a state like Washington, you have people who, thanks to Governor Ferguson, can now change the gender on their birth certificate within 3 business days. And so what do you do when someone's presenting you with a birth certificate that says, I was born a dude, and they weren't? How do you call that a lie? It's kind of tough, right? And so to me, it's just one of those things that just takes it way, way too far. And also, Nicole's going to disagree with me. If you're 35, yeah, you're going to disagree with me. I'm thinking to myself whether I really mean this before I say it. If you're 35 or older, right? Okay. I'm just throwing out a number because I'm 35. Okay. I'm 36, but it's okay. And you're dressing like a girl every day. Mm-hmm. You know, try whatever. And your document says you're a chick. I guess, does it matter?
Okay, so if you're 35, if you're living as a woman, if you've gone through,
as a woman, or you've got surgeries, you know.
If you've got surgeries and I think we should have higher standards for how you go about this. But, then I don't really care. I know somebody who has lived as a male for many years,
Just
had all the
minding their own
surgeries,
business.
is married with children, all the things, and is really paranoid about, or panicked right now about the passport issue.
Yeah.
And so I get it. Like, that person lives as a boy in every aspect of their life.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really care in that sense.
don't really
However, the people that, you know, decided yesterday that they're going to be a boy and they don't have all the parts and they don't live that way, and that doesn't really make sense. That I don't think it should be that easy to change a biological thing.
It's so freaking complicated, because then I'm just thinking of an example where it would matter. Because what if you've got all your stuff and you got it changed legally in a state like ours, or you just lied and said female, right? And then the cops encounter you and they put you in with the chicks in prison or jail. Well, then that becomes an issue if you've got all your parts and stuff. So it's such a complicated, why are we in this crazy complicated situation? There are so many transgender people out there who, like, transgenderism didn't start just like that. There are people, and we used to call them like cross-dressers or whatever it was. And there are people who legitimately like live life as, you know, man, and then they'll dress as a woman sometimes because it tickles their fancy. You're an adult. Do what you want to do. Where was I going with this? But to me, like, I feel bad for those trans people who they don't want any attention. They want to live their life. This is just how they feel. They're not bothering anybody. And now they kind of have to pay the price for all the real Looney Tunes like Jessica, who, you know, are making it such a big ordeal and asking for all these things that are unreasonable, like playing against the biological sex and being in bathrooms with the biological sex and whatever it is. Because now I'm thinking, like, you show up at TSA and you, like, I can spot a transgender person. I'm sorry. I can spot you. Like, you know, but I'm still saying, like, you're wearing a dress and a hair.
You can't change.
And then it says M, male. It's kind of like, well, isn't that more confusing? Doesn't that add confusion to the situation?
Yes, I actually think, I mean, if this is the way that society has decided to, you know, accept this thing that people do, then there should be some, like, I don't actually mind the X thing, because then you're saying, I mean, I guess it should be something specific, so you know if somebody is male to female or female to male, so you know what to do, I guess, in the situation, like you're talking about putting somebody in jail or whatever, or, you know, there's just things where...
Things used to be so simple.
I know.
But it's because the left took things too far.
Yeah.
And now that's the example. So that's what I'm worried about on the right. But when the left took things too far, and then it's like, oh, now everybody gets screwed over. Even the ones who are minding their own freaking business, just doing their own thing. Now they have to, like, upend certain aspects of their life because all the crazy ones, right? And I feel bad for them. I do. I had this nice transgender person I used to have an apartment right next to when I had a place down the street. And they were so nice, and every day they're just coming and going, and just like, it was clearly a male, but dressing as a female, would always open the door for me and say hi, and we'd sit and chat. And I'm like, you know, there's some transgender people who are just
living their lives.
They're just people living their lives, and they don't want, you know, they're not on OnlyFans posting weird stuff about implantation and all this. It's just like, I feel bad for them.
I do as well. I don't know how we should. I don't know. I guess that's where you have to come together and find a reasonable approach to this, and nobody is being reasonable at this point.
Aaron has a good one, to your point. He said you could put TM or TW.
Right.
So trans man or trans woman, which I would be fine with, because they call themselves trans men and trans women. So then, like, they're not hurt and offended, but also somebody who, for legal purposes, really needs to know, like, so you don't get housed with chicks or something, it says, like, trans man.
Well, and like Andy, who we talked to, said, I know I'm not a girl. This is just how I want to live. So, I mean, it doesn't deny you, like, just because you feel like you're a girl, it doesn't mean you're a girl. Right. And so it doesn't deny that you don't think you're a girl. I don't know, whatever. But it does make more sense.
I don't know where that was going to end up.
I don't
I really thought through a lot of things during that segment. And I don't know the answer, but I do know that charging someone with a felony crime for putting male when they're a female, it's just ridiculous. Texas, come on.
You're
just gonna take things too far.
See, they're trying to make a point, because all the other things are so ridiculous that we're dealing with, and so they're trying to make a point. Oh, what if we went this ridiculous on this side?
Don't.
But it's not working.
Don't. If you
don't play that game with them.
If you want a President J.D. Vance for 2 terms after Trump, don't play those games.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. Well, it's not all I'm going to say, because I'm sure I'll talk about it quite a bit on future shows. All right. I have a good First Mark Insurance follow-up for everyone today. So you know how I've been using this one comment from Eric forever. I updated people on Sundays with subscribers. I think I read this. He had told us he's a daily freeloading listener on Spotify, and then he did the First Mark Challenge, and they saved him 30% on his auto and 70% on his home. And I was shaming him on all our live shows, saying like, we helped you save through First Mark 70%, and you're a freeloader still, and you're not paying $5 a month? Well, he sent us this. And he gave the name Freeloading Eric. Brandi, you have called me out 3 times now during the First Mark Insurance ad reads. I'm happy to say that I have taken some of that savings on my insurance and bought a year's subscription to Undivided. So browbeat no more. I'm a proud paying listener. Keep up your hard work. I like that. It only took 3 times, to really shame him to subscribing. If you, like Eric, are a freeloader and you're like, well, Brandi, I just can't afford it right now. I get it. Trust me. I absolutely value anyone who hands over $5 their hard-earned money every month to support what we do. And I realize that times are tough, but may I offer a suggestion? Take the First Mark Challenge. They could help you save, like Eric, 70% on your homeowner's policy. I've heard from Undivided viewers and listeners who took the First Mark Challenge, and now they're saving thousands of $4,000 a year for one of our listeners named Beth, just by taking the First Mark Challenge. So I want you to save money, guys. I do. firstmarkinsurance.com. And the very best part is, so they work for you, not the insurance company. So they always have your best interest in mind. But the First Mark Challenge costs nothing, and you never pay First Mark a dime for their services. It really is a no-brainer, folks. firstmarkinsurance.com. They work for you. Nicole, why are you smirking over there?
Oh, no reason.
I just feel
I'm
like
pulling
you're up to
comments,
something.
so I'm watching everybody's silly comments.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Sorry, sometimes I can't hide it.
She's over there like, I was like, okay, what's happening over there? All right, should we do our daily subscriber show poll, and then we'll get to other comments? All right, for subscribers on Patreon, Locals, and X, I asked you, hearkening back to our lead story of the day, would you ever vote for a candidate for public office who has an active OnlyFans account? Nicole?
I'm going to say no. Shockingly.
Look, I figured maybe, we have some kind of libertarian listeners, viewers who maybe, maybe they're like, you do you, as long as you don't hide it, as long as it's not a secret. Let's see. I don't know how one side of this poll is going to be. It's not that bad. 23% say yes.
Wow. Because I just feel like if that's your job, then like if you're running for something and you're going to be a political candidate, then that should be your focus, and it should have been your focus for a long time.
Yeah, but at some point, once it's online, it's always online. I mean,
exactly.
I guess if the question were if you used to be an OnlyFans, people might feel differently, but if it's still active when you're running, to me that shows a lack of judgment. Like you didn't have the sense to take it down before you started running for public office, so it's almost like an issue there. Let's see. Kendrick says, depends on my options. I'd use the OnlyFans as a deciding element like I would anything else when looking at a candidate as a whole, along with my other candidate choices. So I'm going to say it very well could be a yes. However, it's a big weight on the no side. I guess if the other person's that bad, like if it's the OnlyFans model or a socialist, OnlyFans model, honestly. If it's OnlyFans model or someone who supports police defunding, I'm going with the OnlyFans model.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with that, Kendrick.
I feel like this is part of this like breakdown of society where we've like overly sexualized kids, overly sexualized everything about like we've just made it okay to talk about sex and talk about things that used to not be so okay, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of this breakdown of values and family versus work. I don't know, all the things. And so by putting that out there, we talked about this before, but if you were to run for anything, there's nothing. You have to be yourself. You're authentic because there's all this proof of who you are. It's all online. It's everywhere. So you can't run for something and debate these moral issues and where society is heading when you have an immoral, questionable past.
I don't have an immoral, questionable past.
I meant this person using OnlyFans and doing sexual things for money. I mean, you can't do it. I don't think you have an immoral past.
Thank you.
But I'm just saying you can't hide these things. Like the internet is forever in reality.
Well, Andy said if they own up to it and it's not calling for something like gang, you know what? Sure, why not? I don't want to say that word on the air like in that.
I just said why not? It's a breakdown of society.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Breaking
there's
down
literally
our
nothing
morals.
I've done you guys don't know about. I told you about the time I got in trouble for
I'm sure there's something.
shoplifting a bright blue eyeshadow from a store when I was in the 6th grade.
Terrible.
Shouldn't have done it, I shouldn't have done it.
Learn from your mistakes.
Deeply regret it. Let me see. Sherry, no one is perfect. There's a difference between someone who makes a mistake in the past, owns up to it, and goes on to be a productive, respectable member of society. I agree. And I think we want that, right, as redemption. So if the question was if you used to be like a porn star in your past, I honestly, as long as you are now capable of doing your job, it is something that would factor in, right?
It's how you acknowledge it. So if you said, hey, this is what I did, I've come a long way since then and figured out that that's not a way to make a living and I would like to do this and that. So it's how you acknowledge it. Well, this person obviously went for this seat, not exposing at all who they were before.
Yeah. Big Mike says, I'd love to vote no.
Or still are.
And that's what I thought I was going to vote at first, but I also voted for a quote unquote felon, technically, I guess, multiple times. Another thought process I had was Was State's 2024 governor's race. I'd vote for Reichert if he had an OnlyFans over Ferguson 7 days a week and twice on Sunday, because now you just put the thought of Dave Reichert as OnlyFans into the mind of every woman over 50. That being said, my yes vote for today's poll and comment is before the show, and I have zero idea of the story. Okay, so it was before you saw the show. But yeah, I agree. But I think OnlyFans too is a symptom of like where social media clout and materialism sort of intersect. Because if you can make $1 million a year selling pics of your feet on OnlyFans, they make it so easy. It's like there are literally women out there making millions of dollars a year for selling pics of their feet or other weird stuff. And so it's that, social media clout, materialism, this like way that's acceptable to make money. And it's just hard work isn't sort of necessarily something that generation wants to do. Society. So they see it as a really easy way to get rich and get famous.
I guess I guess it depends on what you do on OnlyFans. If you're just selling pictures of your feet, I mean, I guess that's not the most immoral thing. But if you are talking about women the way he talks about women on there and offering yourself in very bizarre ways, like that's different than selling feet.
Yeah,
pictures.
Definitely a judgment issue. Nobody wants to see pictures of my feet, let's be honest.
Mine are cute.
Yours are?
They're pretty good.
You want to show
They're
us?
not terrible.
You want to show us? We can have a foot cam. Nicole's foot cam.
I take care of them.
And then if somebody gives me enough super chat money, then we'll take the foot cam.
Okay.
Yeah?
No.
Okay. All right. We'll get to some comments and super chats that were not given in exchange for foot pics. Bill Biz, $20 super chat. Seems like our Democrat politicians are so naturally tone deaf that we could have a Libs of TikTok based solely on Washington State content. I agree. Libs of TikTok is sharing all sorts of stuff from Washington State. Heidi Ryan, I lived in Lynnwood for 30 years. Glad I relocated. It's like, this is the best of the best you can get on the city council. Good grief. Barron, we never needed more representation based on race or sex ever. Merit is the basis only. Quotas never work. Public needs the best person for the job, period. Robin, I'm glad I'm sitting down for your unbelievable segment. Yeah, see, I said something nice about Bob. I wanted to give caveats, but I promised I wouldn't. Jalisa, isn't that illegal? If not, why not? The democracy vouchers. How is democracy taking taxpayer dollars and giving it to any citizen to give to someone's campaign? What if they give to a campaign that taxpayers don't want to donate it to? What the hell? Yeah, it's all very, very strange.
Well, and of course Harold likes it because it worked for him. That's the thing. The people that are making this decision, like, it worked for them because they were elected.
Papa Woody, I'm not reading that super chat. I made rules now for super chats. Cold Stinger, but thank you. Another nominal charge was the added additional weight of $10 on our $30 auto registration tabs. How did they determine what additional weight was? Because it's even on a motorcycle. I don't know. Let me see. I don't know what that one means. B. Larson. So now I'm confused. After reading briefly House Bill 1296, are you supporting or opposing it? Did you call it a parental rights bill? It appears the bill wants trans kids. No, it's upending the Parental Bill of Rights. It's amending it. So I'm opposed to it. Vehemently opposed to House Bill 1296. It upends the Parental Bill of Rights that was passed via voter initiative. Thank you for asking, in case it wasn't clear. Todd Welch, Nicole, you don't make a point with taking away someone's freedom.
I'm not sure that I did, but possibly. I mean,
with what?
I don't know.
Oh,
that's why I put it there. I don't know what you're talking about, Todd. Tell me what did I say? Take away the freedom of, I don't know.
Julie Bell, changing your name is one thing, but I believe changing your sex from birth should not happen on your birth certificate. Because that is kind of like the founding document, right? That you can always refer back to. There are people that identify as neither sex. Are we going to allow them to change their birth certificate to non-binary? G says, tasteful pictures, well in the past, I don't care. The one at issue today, yeah, no. I agree. There's a bigger difference there. Two Ladies Midwest Adventures, $10 super chat for the foot cam. Now you got to do it. Nicole. Sorry.
Yeah.
$10 for the foot cam. Let me see. Team Strano. It's a public office and our children are part of that public conflict of interest. Talking about the Lynnwood City Council member. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any question. And is the emergency meeting on Thursday? I think the emergency meeting's on Thursday, and so hopefully they pick someone else, right? I don't know if there's any wiggle room given all of the grotesque stuff.
His was a unanimous vote that all of those people supported him.
There's no way they can now, even in Lynnwood, even though they still support Josh Binda. There's no way.
I know.
I mean, that stuff is disgusting. How would you ever be able to actually engage in any meaningful business?
And again, part of the issue is he hit it.
Well, right. It has nothing to do, and people are going to say, this is transphobic. It has literally nothing to do with this person being transgender.
He also commented on doing sex work and was defending sex workers by they pay taxes too. And I was like, what sex workers are paying taxes?
Yeah, are you?
Thank
Thank you for that. I'm just going to tuck that away for Uncle Sam. Yeah,
I don't think that's part of the argument. Make sex work illegal, legal so that you can collect taxes from it.
Unless you consider OnlyFans sex work, which some people would. So he could be characterizing OnlyFans as sex work. And OnlyFans, if you're getting money through there, you do have to pay taxes.
Right. I think he was, but he was speaking for all sex workers.
Yeah. A lot of sex workers who aren't paying taxes unless you mean to their pimp.
Yeah, it's not the usual.
It's not the IRS. All right, good stuff. Nicole, thank you for putting those comments in there. Let's get to our closing sanity check. Okay, so there was a committee hearing in Congress on school choice, and I've got to play this clip. So it's Congressman Burgess Owens, who's a Republican from Utah, and the main witness testifying against school choice, Jennifer Berkowitz, are having this exchange. So she's there, she's in front of Congress, she's speaking out about school choice. Well, turns out she benefited herself from school choice.
Did you go to a public school system?
No, I went to a private school.
Okay, you went to Head Royce School. Why? I spent time in Oakland. You had a choice in Oakland to go to public schools also. Why didn't your parents do that for you?
Well, I would remind you that children generally don't choose the school that they go to.
No, your parents did. Your parents had a choice. And your parents paid $30,000 to $50,000 a year for your choice.
Choice for me, but not for thee. Isn't that how it always works? Bob Ferguson. Oh, I love our public schools. Sends his kids to private school. Okay. That has been your sanity check for today. That has been today's episode of Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving Common Sense a comeback. A rare episode that we finish on time. Wow.
A minute early.
Oh
2
my
minutes
gosh.
early.
How do I vamp for 2 minutes? I'll vamp by telling you should subscribe to the show if you haven't already. That's how we do the show. Through our generous subscribers. You can go to undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com, and just click on the button that says support the show for $5. It's as simple as that. We sure would appreciate it. No, you will not get foot pics from Nicole in exchange. She's already drawn a very clear line in the sand. I'll keep trying to convince her, though. I mean, she's the one who got on the show and said she has nice feet. I mean, bragging about your feet.
Hey, I take care of them.
Well, it's not that
they gross me out.
I don't take care of my feet. I just wouldn't call them like particularly attractive feet.
I don't like other people's feet. Let me be clear. I have a footophobe.
I
don't want it near me. I don't want a foot anywhere near me.
If I try to warm my toesies under him, he's like, get him away from me.
Yeah, no.
All right.
No.
That has been our show. We'll see you back on the live show tomorrow at noon.